Hope somebody shows up because
Okay, good evening and welcome to Santa Clara City Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, September 7th. If you'll all join with me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are thankful this day for this time that we get to spend together and discuss the items put before this City Planning Commission. We are thankful for this area in which we live and for the residents that are here and the friends and family that we have here. We are thankful for all of the many blessings that thou hast given us. We would ask thee to bless us that we can make wise decisions as we look over these things before us today. We ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Okay. Item number 3 on the agenda is communications from the general citizens. Does anybody have anything they would like to discuss that is not on the agenda today? I'll take that as a no, and we'll move right into the working agenda and public hearings. Public hearing number 1, we are to consider a proposed amendment to the Santa Clara City zoning ordinance to amend section 17.68.50 C to exempt affordable housing projects from the 30-unit apartment limit in the planned development residential zone. Who do we have presenting this?
Hopefully it'd be Jim McNulty, the new city planner, is filling in for Bob Nicholson.
He is not on quite yet.
All right,
Looks like Brock's the corporate.
go for it. Okay, well, I'll do it until hopefully Jim joins us. So the proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance of the PDR zone currently in C4C. Is that right? Scroll to the bottom. It currently caps units in a PDR zone to 30 units of a project, which the current time we have a number of projects that are on the table. One of them that has an affordable housing portion of it for affordable housing. Which is a big topic in the county, affordable housing and trying to find places for people that they can afford to live. Right now, as we've talked, rents are just with what the pay is, it just doesn't meet to what people can afford to pay. And so we've had some developers come in talking about wanting to provide some affordable housing. And so a while ago, when we were working through the assisted living, those type of care facilities, we made an amendment allowing that you could get above that 30 unit cap if you were doing senior housing or seniors of assisted living, because in those projects, you're definitely gonna have more than 30 units most likely in those buildings. But to do affordable housing, we thought we'd come back and also talk about amending it to where somebody provided an affordable housing project that met the federal tax criteria for federal tax credits or a similar state affordable housing criteria, that we would allow them to get above the 30 unit cap. We've had some meetings, we've talked about in TRC and at City Council about this. We feel that to provide for that, some of that in Santa Clara, which there's not a lot of, we're mainly a single family home community with a few townhomes. We've had a few more come in lately. Up by Gubler Park, we have Tuscany and Blackhawk. We also, the other couple ones are vacation rentals. And so to actually find affordable housing, it's difficult, but this would provide us, I believe it's the project on this side for the housing is 120 units. And so we think that this is a good thing for the city to provide some affordable housing for those, if not just Santa Clara City, multiple municipalities, the school district, the hospital, they're all struggling to find housing for people they're offering jobs to. And they come down here and they look around and say, thanks, but no thanks. I can't afford what you're going to pay to live. So I think it'd be a good thing for Santa Clara. So. Jim, join on.
Not yet.
All right. Hopefully you'll have Bob Nicholson, his write-up on that in there. He did up a staff report on it. That's the background on why we're coming forward to amend 4C on the PDR zone. Do you have any questions for me?
So that's the only thing changing, just that underlined verbiage?
Yes, that's it. Just adding in that affordable housing component.
And it's all the same qualifications, the better roofing, better detail, better amenities, those types of things.
That applies to the bonus density.
Okay.
So it's a PD zone, so we still would hold them accountable to provide, make things look nice, that we would hold them to that kind of that density bonus. But on this, they would need it to meet, if they were going to get above their density of 8 units an acre, they would need that. If they could do the project with less than 8 units an acre, they technically wouldn't need that, but we would still ask them. I mean, that's something we've tried to do with all of our developments that are using the PD zone to provide quality aesthetics and craftsmanship to make them look very nice. So.
Looks like Jim just joined.
All right.
Jim is on now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. I'm sorry for the delay. Thank you.
No problem. So that's on that. If there's any other questions, I'll try to answer what Jim can. So.
Okay. With that, I will open up this public hearing for anybody that has any comments on this particular item. Go ahead and step to the microphone. Make sure you tell us your name and your address for the record.
Sure. My name is Dawn Schuerman. I live at 3632 Windmill Drive in Santa Clara. My question is, if it goes from 30 units to 120 units, wouldn't that have more of an impact that would be negative as far as the water levels, the crowds, the traffic? I mean, I bought my house about 4 years ago and I couldn't afford to buy here now. So I don't know what's happened in the last 4 years. I don't know why the building has just gone crazy, as everyone is saying besides myself. But my concern is, I feel bad for people that can't afford it. I mean, it's terrible to have to work somewhere and you can't afford to live there. But, there are several units that were just built think it was exit 16, if I'm not mistaken, where there are now several high-rise buildings, and I have friends that live there and just say it's created a mess, is the nicest way I can say it. So I just am concerned that it seems like nobody's worried about the water issue, which is on the news every night, just about. Are we going to run out of water? I mean, you can build all these units, but if we can't supply the things that people need to live there, I don't see how that would be a benefit for the area. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Let me just add from her statement, it's 30, but it's not up, there's no saying 30 up to 100 to 120, that we're not changing it to that number. It would be, they could get to 31. I mean, it's just, they could get to anything that then gets approved based on planning commission's recommendation and city council. So it's not anything that is set in stone. It's just they can get above the 30. Also address the water issue. Water it's a hot topic. We spoke with Zach Renstrom last week at city council. We're working on landscape ordinance. We're going to adopt a temporary ordinance possibly next week. Will restrict landscape on new development. The water district is working on one as well that will come, that will hit every municipality that is a member of the water district, that they will be asked to participate in as part of a member of the water district to help extend our water resources that we have. But it's one that we definitely are taking serious. We're trying, that's what we're doing. We're going to kind of preemptive get a temporary ordinance done prior to what they're going to do, so we can make sure that all new developments coming in will have proper landscaping, do it so we can extend our water resources. So.
Just as a side note to that, in answer to your question, is that all this does is makes it so the unit can be bigger. It doesn't increase the density. And so theoretically, somebody could come in and build the same number of units. It just wouldn't be in one building. And so the water demand would be roughly the same, potentially the same. That's not on the table today, to increase the number of the density anyway. That may come up later, but it's not on the agenda today.
One other comment, commissioners, just this is in the plan development chapter as well. And so if somebody came in with a project that just really didn't make sense, it's within your discretion, within the city council's discretion to say, this really just doesn't make sense. So it doesn't open up the floodgates. It just really allows the city with the right project to relax that limit if there's an affordable housing component that we want.
Do we have any online comments?
No.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, I will close the public hearing on the number one on this topic. And we will make a quick jump down to general business number one, as far as a recommendation from this council to the city, or from this commission to the city council to amend this zoning ordinance. What do you think?
I have a question on who determines the price of these units, being under the affordable housing umbrella. How does that work with the city? Does the city control the rent costs, or who gets to rent those? And, does it go to school teachers first? Does it go to single moms? Does it go to investors? How does that pan out?
I would love to defer to Jim, because I think Jim's had more experience with this up there on the Wasatch Front. So, but he can answer.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah, I'll try to address that. Thank you, Brock. It would be Utah Housing in this case. There's different rent restrictions, the AMI, the area median income. So someone making 30% of area median would pay this amount, and someone making 50 or 60% of area median would make another amount. But that would be through Utah Housing, and they would have to be compliant with that. I know that's the next item on our agenda. We'll be discussing that site plan and plan by Mr. Smith, and he can speak to that. But there are regulations in place, and they do have to rent according to what they agreed to if their project is chosen through the competitive process to be funded.
So Jim, this is Mark Kendrick. I have a question regarding that. So we have the Utah housing rules. We also have HUD rules and stuff like that that are involved. So does it depend upon what they apply under? Is that how that's determined?
It does. I mean, it's a mix of both. We have Utah Housing, we have HUD. They both come in and they both regulate, and they have certain sets of rules. But it is a competitive process to get their funding. So Mr. Smith will be competing against other projects in the area, and hopefully his project is chosen for the city of Santa Clara, so this project can move forward. But it is a competitive process. There are other entities involved. In this case, it's Utah Housing, it's HUD. It could be the county as well. I know in Salt Lake County has housing and urban development where they have people involved in helping applicants apply for and gain funding approval from Utah Housing and other groups such as HUD, and help them become more competitive. So I assume there's multiple players involved in this, and I think Mr. Smith could speak to that when we get to that item.
Thank you.
We've talked about this a couple of times in a couple of joint meetings with the council. I don't see any reason to belabor the point anymore unless there's anybody has anything else. So I'll go ahead and make the motion that we recommend to the city council to amend the Santa Clara City zoning ordinance, section 17.68.50:C, to exempt affordable housing projects from the 30-unit apartment limit in the planned development residential zone.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a first from Marv and a second from Curtis. All in favor?
Aye.
Is that Shelley on the line as well?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
How are you?
good. Didn't know you were there. Glad to have you. Okay, back to public hearings. We'll go to the second public hearing, which is to consider the request for a rezone from residential R110 to planned development residential on the 20.7 acres located east of 400 East and north of Northtown Road. The subject property abuts Ivan City to the west, and the north. Robert Smith is the applicant. Jim will do it. Okay.
Yes. Thanks, Planning Commission members. I'll give this one a shot. If Christelle is there, could you bring up the site plan for this project?
Yes.
That would be helpful in explaining it. So thank you. As you indicated, it's a request for the PD zone. The development would be known as Desert Edge. The applicant is Robert Smith, who we spoke about just a few minutes ago, or just a couple minutes ago. The project includes a total of 239 units, and the acreage is just over 20 acres. I don't know if it's 20.1 or 20.7, but just over 20 acres. This project would include 36 front-loaded townhomes, as well as 83 rear-loaded townhomes and a 120-unit apartment project. So in speaking to the density issue, the proposal here is for 11.94 dwelling units per acre on the overall site. So, there's different pods to this development, different phases. I know Think Architecture is involved. I've worked with them in the past. They're a very good designer. They do good work. And so that is one of the asks here for the Planning Commission to consider over 8 units per acre as per the PD zone. And in this case, they're proposing a project that has affordability. So that is something that we'll talk about here in a moment. Additionally, the density bonus criteria as per the development code, section 176850, talks about exceptional building design and materials. Christelle, if you could pull up the building elevations, that would help. Thank you. And so you can see here, there's that one, and I think there's multiple pages. I was taking a look, but those would be the front-loaded townhome units with the front-loaded garages with 20-foot driveways. So they'd be parking in the driveway as well as the 2-car garage. And I believe we have a rear-loaded townhome as well. I believe they front on a green. I don't think those would have driveways. They usually just have a lip of 4 or 5 feet that provide direct access into a garage. As far as building height goes, and we can leave that there, the code restricts to 35 feet by the City Council upon recommendation of the Planning Commission. The applicant has indicated that the 3-story buildings, and in this case, it's the apartment building. I don't know if I have the information in front of me about the building height for the townhome, so perhaps the applicant is on and can answer that. But for the apartment building, because we know we're getting a little more dense with the units, and there it is, they're indicating that there is 35 foot to the top of the parapet wall, 3-story building. So that's something that would be reviewed by planning staff and the building official and others to make sure they conform with the building height requirements. Open space is always an issue with projects, making sure we get ample open space for nice amenities and areas for residents to enjoy. The code requires 30% of usable open space, and the overall site plan for the project shows just over, I believe it's 35.5%, so 7.1 acres. That does not include a parking area. They do have a landscape plan, if you could pull that up, Christelle. And Bob's indicated that the landscape plan will be required to meet submittal requirements, as well as a fencing plan and the parking plan. Project amenities, they're proposing a clubhouse and a swimming pool to be located of course, behind the clubhouse with tennis courts and pickleball courts, playground equipment, and a barbecue area. That's something we could focus in a little bit more on to make sure that it is good equipment and usable equipment for the residents. Tennis courts are nice, but we know pickleball is all the rage. So if we could trade 2 tennis courts for 4 more pickleball courts, that might be a good trade, but that would be up to the Planning Commission and Council, just my 2 cents. We have the affordable housing objective here. Right now, Santa Clara doesn't have affordable housing options built within the code, but we just made a recommendation to allow for that to the City Council for them to consider. I do know that Horrocks was hired to do a traffic impact study. They're indicating that the trip generation proposed for the development for AM and peak PM hours, they're saying the level of service will operate at level service A or B within for the proposed project. There's a difference between A and B, but they're both good. Level C is a passing level, just like a grade in school. Level D and F is where we have a lot of concerns, but they're saying it's a level of service A or B. There is an issue or another item associated with this request within the packet, or it talks about within Bob's report. They are asking for conditional use approval for the 119 townhomes that were described to be used as short-term rentals. That would allow future owners of the townhomes to offer the unit as a short-term rental if they desire. Section 1768-060 of the city's code has requirements and restrictions for these rentals. These requirements include additional parking for units with 3 or more bedrooms, having a property manager located in Washington County, having a Santa Clara business license and a sales tax, and collect the required transient room tax. These are good things. These are things that are standard, and I've been used to and seen and read on other projects. It's very important that there is a manager located close by, that a business license is required, and that the city be able to collect a portion of that sales tax. I know that's state regulated, so that's very important. So it looks like the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed here. Bob had some comments on the project plan going back to that. It indicates the applicants provided building elevation drawings for both the 2-story Coyote townhomes and the 3-story Quail Crossing apartments. The PC should review the elevation drawings to determine if the site plan and building design meet the criteria to receive a density bonus increase. So that's one item that we talked about. Secondly, the applicant has requested a conditional use permit to allow for the future owners to offer this units as short-term rentals. Some owners will opt for that, others will choose not to do that. But I believe it's something that the applicant, Mr. Smith, is asking for. It indicates that the amenities appear to be in line with other properties that allow for short-term rentals in the community. And then the big one here, the applicant is in the process of applying for low-income housing tax credits through the Utah Housing Corporation. So it goes through those different levels with the AMI. And so it's our understanding out of the 239 units, 10% of the units would be at an extremely low level at 20% AMI, with 10% at 30 AMI, 30% at 40% of AMI, 30% at 50% of AMI, and then pretty small percentages as we get higher at 60, 70, and 80%, with 6%, 6%, and 8%, totaling 100%. And in his staff report, he did attach the table where you can read those. I wish I would have blown this up a little bit so I could see it a little bit better. But as you can see, the levels for a studio or one bedroom for those that are making 20% of AMI, for one person, that's $10,380. That's $259 a month. For 50% of AMI, someone making 50% at $25,950, that's $648 a month. Someone making 80%, which is just over $41,000, the fair rent for a studio would be just over $1,000, and a one bedroom would be just over $1,100, with a two bedroom approximately $1,300. So as you can see, rents are high. Rents are high, and if Mr. Smith does end up being awarded or his project qualifies for this type of housing and the tax credit, it's going to be a great benefit to the community. With that, that's all I have to add at this point. I'll turn it back over to the Planning Commission for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then let's open this public hearing. Anyone that has comments on this, you can step to the lectern, give me your name and your address for the record.
My name is Shad Johnson. I'm a resident of Ivins, just a couple houses in from 400 East. Thanks, first of all, for sending invitations out to us so we can have a chance to give some thoughts and feedback on this. Just a couple questions for you. So first of all, I'm on 800 South, 2 houses in from 400 East. And I was here a couple of years ago for the vacation properties that were put in to the south of this property across to 800 South. One question I have is the setback on 400 East. How far is that setback planned right now from the street?
If you give me a moment, I can look that up. I can't tell from the area where I'm at right now. I'll have to go to other drawings, but I'll write your questions down and see what I can look on the drawings. Thank you.
I got a couple of things to ask about in the meantime. And obviously the traffic has increased in that area since then. One of the things that I noticed, if I understand correctly, when they develop this property, will that include developing then because that road right now just has a gutter on it, or no, sorry, no gutter at all. It's just open. They'll have to put a gutter in, is that correct? And finish off the road on that side. Okay. Which will then open up that road. Cause if you guys know, driving up that road, it's developed and then it stops and you have a 2-lane or partial tight 2-lane, and then it opens back up again when it hits the next development. So this section would then complete that on that road on 400 East, which is good because one of the challenges we have, of course, is traffic coming down there. Condenses really tight. There's a lot of kids running around, and I'm just concerned about the safety, about the amount of traffic for that reason. And that's the reason I'm asking about the setbacks as well. The other property just to the south, it's is set back. I don't know how far it is, maybe 12 feet off the road, something like that. And then it's got a block wall immediately right there. And I don't remember if there's access points for people to walk out through the block wall. But that's just something I want to pay attention to and bring to the attention of the Planning Commission that we're concerned about. The amount of vacation, when those vacation properties are full, there's a lot of activity happening around that area, a lot of kids. And then on that note, the noise levels are a concern a little bit. I don't mind that they're having fun. That's what they're there for, the purpose of why they're there. But I wondered if there's anything that can be done beyond my knowledge to help maybe subdue or kind of, capture some of that noise level just a little bit so it's not traveling so far. So we can hear when the kids are playing in the pool. We can hear when they're on their back patios and doing things. But again, we're close. We're just a couple properties away from where that's at. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
And Mr. Johnson, one thing that was submitted, which I really appreciated in this, was kind of a question and answer from Mr. Smith. And that was one thing he did address, because I'm sure there's been some things. And he says, noise or loud music. Speakers will not be built in outdoor patios. Our CCRs will not allow for loud music to be played on the patios of the apartments or the townhouses. So it sounds like they're taking that into consideration, maybe from feedback of Arcadia and stuff like that they've received from neighbors.
Okay. And then if I understand correctly from what was read, some of the properties will be open for owners to choose to change them to a short-term rental, but that's not how they'll initially be sold. Is that correct? If I understood that correctly? Okay. So naturally, more consistent, I just want to call regular use traffic makes sense, but sometimes it seems like with the vacation traffic that they're in and out a lot more often. There's a lot more happening there. And I, again, just concerned about kids. I have a neighbor right across the street, right in the corner, 400 East and 800 South. They've got a bunch of young kids, and I just worry about the safety, mostly about that intersection because it's getting busier. So is there any plans for anything with regards to the road? I know that that's a shared property between the two cities. Is that going to still remain a 2-lane road? Is there any plans to change that as of right now?
On North Town Road or up
On
400?
400 East.
Not to my knowledge.
And no plans for a stoplight necessarily for 800 South, 400 East?
City manager is shaking his head this way, so it sounds like there's nothing being planned at this time.
Okay. If they just take note of my concerns and perhaps there's some thoughts and changes that could be considered there. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did we get any online comments from this one? Okay.
Chair, I was just asking, and I didn't hear because I was doing a little research pulling that site plan up. I was wondering if Mr. Smith had an answer to the setback or the distance from 400 to the units. If that was answered, I didn't hear.
Approximately 20 feet is what I'm hearing from the gallery.
Okay. And that's what I just looking at it, the scale was hard to read and there weren't numbers. I was thinking it was 20. So thank you for the clarification.
He's asking if there's any walls. I don't see anything on the fencing plan. They've got solid block wall along the backside and open rail fencing. But nothing on 400 East except for the open rail fence. Sir.
Yes, I'm sorry, I came in late. This piece of property.
Would you mind? I need your name and your address.
Marlo Marchant. I live at 474 Oasis Drive in Ivans.
Thank you.
This thing is just across the fence in my backyard. I'm on that last row of homes in Padre Lakes. Just have a couple questions. So these are going to be vacation rental homes like Arcadia and Ocotillo? Is that what we're talking about?
Some of them will have the option to do that, but not all of them.
Okay, so whoever buys it, they can do whatever they want with it, is what you're saying.
I'm not sure they'll have to apply, I believe, in order to change it that way. Isn't that, Brock? They would have to.
So on the townhomes on the northern side of the project plan, those would have the vacation rental overlay. So they would have the option, those who own those would have the option to do vacation rental. They could do long-term rental if they wanted to. They could own them and live in them, use them as a second home. The bottom 4 buildings on the south end, those are the apartments. They will not have the vacation overlay. That's where the affordable housing is in those 4 units at the bottom.
Okay.
So just to further clarify, if the entitlement is granted today, they wouldn't need to come back. So say one of the purchasers wanted to run short-term rentals, it wouldn't be coming back here again to do that.
Okay.
Are we talking about 2-story buildings?
Yes.
Okay. My other question is about, I guess you're calling it Hamlin Drive now? That's going to come from Split Rock all the way down to 91. When is that going to be put in? I've seen that they put a little bit in. Do they have to finish it before they finish this?
They put it in to come down here and access a little parking area that they put in for Artesia for the boats and RVs and things.
Okay, well, they've just come down partway right now and it's only half the street. It's not the full width.
Yeah.
But so why hasn't that road been put in down to Ocotillo?
We don't need it yet, is the answer. And we don't have any idea when that's going to get done. Do we, Ron?
What?
We have no idea.
Well, I asked one of the city officials in Ivans about, the road is really narrow right there where the gentleman talked about by his house. And I says, well, when is it going to be widened? And he says, well, when the property's developed, then the fellow that develops it will have to do that. But the property is all finished and developed on both sides of the other part of that road that curves down through the rest of Santa Clara. So you're just going to say, I'm going to be dead and buried for 80 years before it gets put in?
Maybe a few years less than 80. But yeah, I don't think anybody knows when that's going to get put in.
Okay.
I think you're mixing 2 roads up, 400 East or Hamlin Drive. Those are 2 different.
I'm talking about both roads.
400 East will be done.
The developer's going to have to put that in as he puts this property in, right?
Correct.
Right.
And he'll do Hamlin Drive that's next to it. But why wasn't then it put in south of there when it went through Ocotillo?
One of the reasons it wasn't put in at the time is because we don't know when the western quarter is going to be built. It could be 20 years out. Who knows with the changes of lands for the northern corridor and taking zone 6 in the South Hills. We don't know when you could have built it and it would just sit there. Asphalt would go deteriorate. And by the time it was ever needed, usually we'd be going back in and redoing the road completely. And it would just be not cost effective, not knowing when it'll ever be built.
Okay. I got my bureaucratic answer.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing on item number 2. And we're going to jump down to general business number 2 for a recommendation to City Council to rezone from residential R110 to a planned development residential. Commission, what do you think?
Mr. Smith want to say anything or present?
Oh, wait, do we want to hear from Robert Smith? Is that what you want? Step up here. I'll bet these guys have some questions.
Sure. Robert Smith, 1100 East South Union Avenue. Jim, thanks for the intro, and Brock, thanks for your comments as well. Glad to be here tonight. Answer any questions you have. We've been to a number of work meetings. Recognize somebody that has been in those meetings. We feel like we've worked on this plan for over a year now and tried to work out a lot of the kinks and issues, concerns, address noise issues, fence issues, landscape issues, parking issues. I feel like we've done that and provided a really good plan here that helps accomplish a number of things with the city, namely the affordable housing part of things. We're excited for our application, which is due in 2 weeks from yesterday. We're working hard every day to meet that deadline, and we feel like we will. Any questions anyone wants to ask me or?
I guess my lemming question is what happens if you don't get the affordable housing approved
I can come back again next year and apply for it again.
and then just do it again?
That's what I would try to do.
And,
Yeah,
and that fits into your phasing plan that you presented and notice.
right.
So you're going to start from the north down?
We have a
Phase
phasing
one.
plan. Christelle, do you have that phasing?
Yeah, let me
plan?
pull it up.
It starts kind of in the middle. So it starts with the clubhouse and the amenities. And it starts with the development of the townhomes. Let's see.
Okay.
Go down a couple.
One more.
Not quite far that far. Now. A little more. I think you're still in the traffic study.
Page 39.
A lot of files.
The traffic study is a fun one to read if you haven't already. There we go. So there in the middle, phase two or phase one, the clubhouse, and then it'll kind of go up to the north with those townhomes, and then jump over to the first phase of the apartments, and then back over to the green in phase three, phase four townhomes, phase five townhomes, and phase six more apartments.
Okay.
And I think we've worked with comments from the mayor as far as, access roads, which develop those first. So we've developed, we've put in roads off of 400 East and Northtown to be done in the first phase so that access will be 2 access points.
So regarding the phasing, if you get if you're awarded the tax credit, wouldn't one or both of your phases kick step ahead of the line a little bit for the affordable housing? Because you got those in phases 6 and, oh, that's 2. Okay.
Phase two.
Phase 2. Yeah. Okay.
So the plan is to apply for the tax credit in 2 parts anyway. So, we're applying this year for tax credits, and we'll apply next year. Hopefully we get them in both cases. There may be a little bit of juggling around with the phases, but that's the best plan we've got right now.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't see the
Well,
phase.
you're fine. It's out of order a little bit, and it kind of.
What is the specific tax credit that you're applying for?
Low income tax credits of the Utah Housing Corporation.
Okay. So is it Utah Housing Corporation that monitors compliance then throughout
Yeah.
the?
So there's an audit that's done every single year. That'll make sure that we're in compliance. There's a management company, but it's part of the requirements. There's a management company that'll be required to be on site. We'll actually give up one of our units. So instead of having 60 units, we'll have 59 units plus one office that will house the management company that'll be there. That'll screen the applicants, make sure they qualify, meet the qualification needs. And like I said, every year we'll be audited by an outside firm that'll make sure that that only those that qualify are approved to live there. Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question that's sort of the opposite of my first erroneous question. Is phase 2 is an affordable housing unit. If you do not get your tax credit, are you going to bump that phase back, or are you going to still build that and offer the affordable housing as required?
Most likely we'd bump it back. Yeah. So the funding for the buildings comes through the tax credits. So I wouldn't be able to build it without that funding.
So Devin, what would happen in that situation? Let's say by chance he wasn't able to receive approval for some time and we continue to build, but that never gets done, that phase 2. Does anything change as far as, because at that point the project is being built?
When do you expect to receive notification of your tax credit?
November, December.
I think what we're going to need to do is make it conditional, the approval conditional on getting the credit. They're going to need to come back if they don't, because the 30 unit cap is being relaxed because it's an affordable housing program. If they don't get that, they can't build more than the 30 units.
And we wouldn't be building those.
Yeah, and he doesn't, yeah, based on what he said, he doesn't want to build it if he doesn't get the tax credit in anyway.
Right.
So,
We'd continue on with our townhome development. But we'd wait until we get the approval for the apartments.
Anything else? Makes for a very well done presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
It was easy to read. Thank you.
All right.
One more comment here. This is just something to mention here as well. It's kind of a chicken and egg type of thing. I can't get my part of the application for the tax credits is this have the zoning in place. And so that's a large part of the reason why I'm here tonight is to get this zoning in place and to get a letter from the city to provide along with the application. Anything else? Just want to make that clear, I guess, and make that point. Right.
Okay. All right. Commission members, what do you think? Ready to make a
good.
recommendation?
Yeah, looks
Yeah,
good.
Answered my questions.
I just have a question regarding what they said the very last, and this is for Mr. Snow, basically, is I don't see anything in the recommendation here that mentions affordable housing. It's going from R110 to land development, which they would have to do anyway with for their development.
Right.
So in our motion, are we to mention anything about that the condition or the affordable housing or?
Yeah, I think in the motion, you should look at two things. The first one is a recommendation on the density bonus. Are you recommending the approval of the density bonus? And then the second factor, I think, would be what you just mentioned, Commissioner, that the approval be conditioned on the applicant securing the tax credit to fund the construction.
Would we really want to do that? I mean, based on his phasing even right here, he's going to start on a phase one that doesn't require a low income housing aspect. So would we just say the south portion of that would then be subject to his building the low income?
Yeah, I think that's a good clarification. The condition would be only applicable to the affordable housing components of this plan. So yeah, nothing that would stop them on phase one. If you want, now, if you see this as a package deal, if you want to see all of it developed together, then yeah, you'd make it all conditional. But if what you're saying is, hey, if the affordable housing component doesn't come through, we're fine with the rest of the townhome side of this development, then yeah, you would make the condition just on the affordable housing components.
Now, personally, I think the affordable housing is important. And I think we ought to have it. But some things we don't control. I don't know. So you're saying we could actually tie that together and say that it's contingent upon him doing that. And if we did that, then he wouldn't be able to start even phase one until he got approval.
You could make that recommendation. It's going to go to the city council and they're going to
Do whatever they want.
Right, but I'm just saying, you could make that recommendation that the city council include some sort of condition, yes.
Just add one thing here. I failed to really mention anything about the bonus density criteria. I feel I've met that every single point. I mean, you look at that bonus density, look at what's required there, and some things are optional of what to do and suggestions of what to do. I've looked at that very closely. Spent a lot of time with Bob and others looking at that and talking to that and saying, hey, I want to meet every single one of these bonus points.
Yeah.
And not just meet part of them or partially, but to the fullest extent. This development will be very nice, and I don't mean to brag or boast, but I take very great pride in that, and that's very important to me. And so I guess I just mentioned that to have you take that into consideration as far as I don't know the outcome of the affordable housing. I feel very confident about it. I know our application is great. I don't know how we stack up with others. I won't know that. But I guess I hate to tie that to being able to start on my other phases or other townhomes when I'm that part of it's out of my control or out of my hands. But what we have planned for and what we are, with our bonus density, what we are requesting, we meet all that criteria. Thank you.
So since this is a zone change and it, with the plan development that's been provided to us, it basically ties them into that. It ties them into the apartments unless they come back and revise the
plat.
Well, not the plat, but the plan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, planning commission, this is Jim. They would have to come back and amend the plan and make changes because in the report, we talk about an overall density of just under 12 units per acre, and that's the north and the south. That's combined. So the density without the bonus is limited to 8 units per acre. So that's kind of, it is a bit of a chicken and an egg, like Mr. Smith mentioned. And I think his project or his proposal will fare well, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's competitive and there's a process, but I think he has a really good chance.
But we don't know the outcome, and I don't think it's fair to make a condition on that.
I agree.
Yeah. I think
if he can't do it, he's got to come back anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
if I was in his shoes, if I was in his shoes, I mean, a lot hinges on this process.
Yeah. Agreed.
I don't know how to word it, quite frankly. But I guess the bottom line is I recommend that we make a recommendation to the city council to make a motion that we recommend to the city council to rezone this from residential R110 to planned development residential for the Desert Edge project on 20.7 acres located east of 400 East and Northtown Road as described and according to the plan that we have in front of us today.
With the density
approved, bonus density approved.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Got a first from Mark and a second from Marv. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's pass. Okay.
There's another part of that.
Yeah. Oh,
because we have to approve the conditional use permit also, don't we?
That's correct. So that'll be a separate item.
So that becomes a separate item. So I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit as requested for nightly rentals for the Coyote Landing townhomes at Desert Edge, listed as 119 townhomes.
And that's great. Just one recommendation that it be conditioned on them getting the zone change from the city council.
Yeah, a condition upon the zone change approval from the city council.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a first from Mark and a second from Curtis. All in favor?
Aye.
Asked again. Okay. Move forward, Robert Smith. Back up to our public hearings, number 3. We're looking for input for approval of a project plan in a planned development commercial zone located at approximately 3542 Rachel Drive in front of the Harmon store. Project plan consists of a site plan, elevations. Okay. Jim, are you doing this one as well?
I will, thank you. Christelle, if you could pull up, you have the site plan. There you go, thank you. So the applicant is Harmon's, and this is a retail pad in the new Harmon Shopping Center. It's nice to see the stuff that's going in with Cafe Rio and Malbetta, and they're looking at some other uses. In this case, I believe one is a Beans and Brews. The applicant, Kristen Veros, I believe, is here this evening, and she can speak to that. There's a few items that we need to address through the Planning Commission process here, through the public hearing process for this site plan and project approval. So it does require a site plan and building elevation approval from the Planning Commission and City Council prior to issuance of building permits. This is Pad A. It's 0.7 of an acre or 33,000 square feet. The proposed building is just over 6,000 square feet. I'm having a hard time seeing with the split screen because I'm at home with my laptop rather than in an office with large monitors. But we do have 12 parking spaces that are associated with this pad. But there are another 22 parking spaces directly to the east for the Harmon Center, and the entire center does have a shared parking agreement. So you can see that there. They have 22 parking spaces in pretty close proximity to the 12 spaces adjacent to the building. Now, the building will be required to meet ADA requirements for a parking stall or 2 that is very close to the building. I believe there's at least 1. There could be more, but that's a building code item, and our building official will take a look at that. So we do have an issue with landscaping here. According to the commercial zone, the PD, it requires that the area between the street, curb, and the building setback line, 20 feet from property line, be landscaped except for the sidewalk area. And so in this particular scenario, they're proposing 2 drive-throughs with a 25-foot wide lane, kind of that split drive-through. And I know there's 2 users, and Kristen's here and can tell us those. Beans and Brews is one of them. I'm not recollecting the other, but they're showing the two wide drive-through, 25 feet wide. Therefore, it is making the landscape area less. And it's required by code upon recommendation by the Planning Commission to the City Council that the landscape strip be no less than 10 feet wide. So the applicant is here tonight and can explain the reasoning behind the drive-through that is 2 lanes wide and why they need that. And so Bob has indicated that here in his staff report. Now, the building elevations and the design is very similar to other buildings that have been built. Pad B, which houses the Cafe Rio and other tenants. It's indicated here that the building height is just over 26 feet to the top of the parapet. So going to the building elevations, thank you, Christelle. It shows a nice building elevation. You can see above the parapet walls, there's area for signage. I assume that's something we'll look at through a sign code review or a sign review as per the sign code later on, as was likely done for Cafe Rio, Malbetta, and some of the other uses out there on those pads. So I think it's a good looking building. It's a workable site plan. We do have that issue with the landscaping that's required by code or ordinance. We do have shared parking, which is great for the overall site in case of peak AM and PM. I know in the case of Beans and Brews and Starbucks and others, peak AM and PM can be pretty busy where you get queuing for 10 or 12 vehicles. So we'll let the applicant speak to that and show that they have appropriate queuing space in their drive-through. The staff recommendation would be a careful review of the applicant's case for the double drive-through within the front setback. We're partially within the front setback area. If an encroachment into the front setback area is allowed, additional landscaping elsewhere is required by the code. The landscaping strip just to the east of Pad A boundary may qualify if the Planning Commission makes the recommendation and the council feels it is adequate to compensate for any approved encroachment to that setback area. With that, we'll turn it over to the Planning Commission now. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, let's open the public hearing for any comments on this project. Anything online?
No.
Okay, do we have a representative here?
Yeah, I'm online. This is Kristen Boros. I'm the architect.
Excellent. Good to have you.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like we have any comments. So I'll close the public hearing just like that. And then do we have any questions for Ms. Boros?
I have a question. I was just, we're familiar with that landscape requirement because we've dealt with it on other pads in this whole area.
We did.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm looking at this one though, the landscape requirement was 10 feet. Where are we missing that? 10 feet on Rachel Drive? Because that certainly looks for scale.
16.4 is what I see.
Is more than 10 feet.
I think it's supposed to be 20.
20.
Should be 20.
Okay, I heard 10 and I'm going, all right, thank you.
I do have a question, Christian. That, based on the current slope of that hill and whatnot, there's not a lot you can do with that space. So is that coming to play in how you develop the double parking or double drive-through?
Yeah, so we do have a retaining wall that's on sort of in between the drive lane and where the landscaping starts. And so there is quite a great difference. So the thought was to put a retaining wall in so that we could keep all the landscaped high and sort of maximize the landscaped area and the visibility from Rachel Drive. So yes, there will be a retaining wall to accommodate that.
And is that 10 feet, the minimum space, is that where the number 1 is, where that tree planter is?
No, that is an existing well that when we had our TRC, the city said they were going to look into see if that could be removed. I mean, we would love to get rid of that, but it is an existing well that's been there for, I don't even know how long. So at this point, we don't believe that we can get rid of it.
Everybody in this room.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point, Kristen. When we had the TRC, we talked about maybe having a more gentle meander in the sidewalk there because it's
and you can
all of a sudden a big,
you can kind of see that in the site plan. I think they drew that in, but then they didn't quite get it adjusted. So I'll make sure that it matches the gentler curve that's shown there.
That would be great. Then people won't cut across, but there is a well there. And then I was worried about kids on scooters too. So thank you.
Yeah. Have we heard anything of whether we can get rid of that well? Do you know?
No, Kristen, we have not heard from Dustin, who spoke about that, our public works director. I think he talked about the two option was getting rid of or just lowering it as it stands up high. And if we could just possibly just lower it to make it so it's not quite such a visible thing. But I have not heard back from Dustin, but I will check on that.
Okay.
So possibly just lower it and cause it to look like the rest of the planters.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. I don't see an issue. Quite frankly, I don't see an issue, guys. I just think it's a great space. They addressed my question about the retaining wall, so we know what the slope's going to do. We've had this conversation with the Mobetas and the SWIG and the need, and we understand we've got some pushback saying, well, there should be a better way, but boy, I don't know if there's a better way to do it. I think what they presented is pretty darn good. So,
do we recall the landscape strip measurements of the tag and go? It's about the same, isn't it?
Tag and go's almost identical.
Okay, yeah, and that turned out.
Yeah.
The only thing we've done is that change from along there that we are here as the planter boxes that we did up on Ace Hardware. And that said, we pushed them back
Get 'em out
further to give a
sidewalk.
little bit more sidewalk. If you're on up by the Capriati's, Cafrio, you only have about 3 feet of space. You can't really walk side by side. So we made that change, which also we implemented on this one too, to push them back to give you about, I think it's about 6 feet of sidewalk space to actually, so you can walk side by side.
I was going to ask Kristen, we had talked about Beans and Brews. Who was the second user?
The second one is Roxbury juice.
Oh, okay.
The juice and
Smoothies.
smoothie.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great.
And so
That's
the
correct.
Beans and Brew will be the sort of further drive through. So they'll have the most queuing space, and then the Roxbury will be the sort of the closer one to the entry of the drive through.
Well, do you anticipate queuing space
said-
10 or 12 feet deep in peak AM or PM? I apologize. Sorry for interrupting.
Okay. I think Mark did a good job of explaining. Pretty much we've seen this thing before. We've approved it before.
Yeah.
It's
Sort
not,
of created a precedent.
yeah. Any other questions? Because I don't. Okay,
Well, then I will move to recommend to the city council to consider approval of the project plan in the PDR commercial zone located approximately 3542 Rachel Drive in front of the Harmon store. I think that's listed as pad A. And also recommend all of the project plans that consist with the elevation and things that have been presented this evening.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Got a first from Curtis and a second from Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Okay, let's get it built. Number 5 on general business. A recommendation to city council for a preliminary plat for the points at Santa Clara. Oh, wow. Who, is this Jim? Is this you again?
Yes, it is. And I was noticing, looking at that preliminary plat today, I did see 44 lots rather than 43 lots. So I wanted to bring that to the Planning Commission's attention. I did see a total of 44 lots on the preliminary plat. The applicant is Clint Tolman. The site's just over 23 acres. I like the concept. It's an age-in-place concept. They've been working with McNeil Engineering on the subdivision and the utilities plans. This is the preliminary subdivision plat. Again, it includes 44 lots. Looks like the lots are an average of 8,000 to 9,000 square feet in size. There are some larger lots, as you can see. And I want to say north is always at the top. So I want to say kind of northwest. You see 2 large lots there. And then directly north, you see some townhomes. I believe there are 5 buildings for a future phase of townhomes. Also age in place. And then the main building will be the assisted living facility in the center of the complex. They do show 2 points of ingress and egress to and from the site off of Pioneer Parkway. It's our understanding that they'll employ or utilize a public street system to meet a city standard. The other parts of this project, including the townhomes, the townhome independent living, the assisted living facility, which will include memory care and Alzheimer's care. That'll come back at a later date. It's my understanding tonight they're asking for approval of the preliminary plat to include 44 single family lots at this point. And so we would recommend approval of the preliminary plat as presented, noting that the plat conforms to the approved project plan and city standards. I did have 44 lots unless I've missed something. That's the only change I had to the staff report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We saw this a few months ago, 2 months
Yep.
ago.
Yeah.
Really liked it.
Yeah, it's a great option.
Really liked it then. I like it just as much now.
The age in place concept is really nice. I've seen one in Alpine. It's very nice. I mean, it gives people an opportunity and choices as things progress. For a while, you may have someone taking care of you. After a while, you may not. For a while, you may be able to take care of yourself a little. Later on, you may not. So the age in place concept is very nice, and I like what I see here as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't see any change from what was presented to us last time. It does look like one of the things that we asked about was making those entrances a little wider. It appears they've done that from our conversation the last time, right? Okay.
And the slow down, speed up lanes coming off. That was my concern where I use that a lot. It seems like I'm always getting ran over turning onto Lava Cove, but it looks like those are there.
Try riding your bike out there.
So this is picky along those lines. It says existing striping to remain and existing edge of asphalt, but yet it shows the striping to be have a turn lane. So that's a little confusing. I think that the line work is right, but the comments on there are not. So I would approve the line work.
This is Jim. I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I think Rob is on also, the civil engineer. He could speak to that. And yes, this is the same project, obviously, that we brought in a couple months ago. And I did go through our plan of this age in place. We call it like continuum of care model, but I can go through that again or in more detail or whatever you guys would like to hear.
Do you want to confirm that this striping will be as shown on the line work instead of?
Yes, the striping is correct. My apologies. I believe that's probably just the demolition note about the removing of some striping. But the difference between last time is we now have the left-hand turn lane across the entire width of the project, which required some additional asphalt as well on the south side of the road. So yes, they are planning to construct the entire road of that striping.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then Rob, can you speak about the different amount of lots? I thought we were at the same amount of lots, but Jim has counted it one lot different than
Jim, Mr. Peterson, I just noticed something and I was looking closer and so I see a lot 42 for the townhome independent living, and then I see a lot 45 for the assisted living. So are those to be left out right now, or will those be part of this preliminary plat? Because if we just go straight single family, that's correct, there's 43, but I see a multifamily lot and an assisted living lot on this plat if I look at the numbering. So could you speak to that?
Yes, we'd like to plat the whole 23 and some acres. I'll let Rob speak to it, but yeah, we'd like to plat the whole thing at once.
The number of lots hasn't changed since the last time you saw it. I believe last time it just didn't have the large assisted facility lot numbered. And so that was why the lot count went up by one. It was really just because that had been omitted on a previous submittal. And so I believe when the application was filled out, Clint probably just looked at the highest number and that's what he used. But, so we haven't changed the number of lots. We just added the number onto the drawing.
And Rob, just to clarify, we're submitting for a preliminary plat for the complete site, like the independent living, assisted living building, the cottages, the 5 cottages to the north of it, and all the single family lots.
That is correct. Yes, everything within that boundary shown, that's what we're applying for.
So you would be platting 45 lots, is that correct?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson just pointed out to me, lots 32, there's 3 lots 32 on the plat.
I think that would make the 45 total.
Yeah, if you count them up, there's 45 lots, not counting lot 42. That's that townhome.
There is a numbering problem in there.
My apologies there. I think we did some lot reconfiguring and the numbers must have not kept up with the changing layout.
It's a good catch. I do see some duplication. We need to be clear with the lot numbers so we don't have to come back, requesting that the plat be amended to add more lots. So the engineers are here. Are you sure it's 45 lots or is there 46? I just want to make sure.
I think I would need a few minutes just to confirm. I was going by the numbering system, but with some duplications, I probably need a few minutes to take a peek at that.
You're counting them.
How many do you get? I get 47.
There's 45, and I think where the error was made on the numbering is they counted the assisted living as a lot and the independent townhome as a lot, but then they did 3 number 32. So if you take those two out and add for the 2, you're at 45.
If you count, those are
Yeah,
actually.
and if you count the assisted living in the townhome, that's 47.
47.
47 with the townhomes and the assisted living.
I get 47 as well.
So a recommendation should include 47, the count of 47.
Yeah, it doesn't change. I still like it.
Yeah.
My apologies for the confusion there.
You ready for a motion?
I'm ready.
I move that we recommend to the city council approval of the preliminary plat for the point at Santa Clara on 23.6 acres, generally located north side of Pioneer Parkway, just west of Entrada Development, with the caveat that it's a 47 lot subdivision and that the numbering gets adjusted and corrected. The 47 lots include 1 lot for the townhomes and 1 lot for the assisted living center.
Okay.
I'll second that.
I've got a first from Marv and a second from Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Another one down. Nice work. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. Last item. Have we got any discussion items today? None. All right. Fine with me. Then I'm going to need an approval of the minutes from our August 12th 2021 meeting. Assuming you all read through them and approved them.
I wasn't here, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I did. I will motion to approve the minutes from the August 12th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Got a first from Curtis and a second from Marv. All in favor?
Aye.
And with that, we will adjourn the Planning Commission for Tuesday, September 7th, 2021 until next month. Sweet.
Thanks, everyone. Looking forward to being there with you in person at the next meeting. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for your information.
Hurry and get here.
We'll be there on the 20th.